Hey, it's Soul with another video, and today I want to, well, first, let all of you know, hey, Happy New Year, have a good 2019, and I hope to see a lot more of you. A couple of years back or so, I did a video, and I talked about the different things that, I forget the name off the top of my head, but it was like 16 things or a number of things that somehow kept my guild together for almost 10 years. Now it's been more than 10 years. It's been 11 years since I became part of my guild, Prisoners of Warcraft. And from that, I wanted to share with all of you 10 lessons that I had learned. I just jotted a couple things down, and I'm going to free talk a lot of this, so I'm going to be all over the place. Warning, but the whole idea here is to share one of the most celebrated things that I value here in the world of Warcraft. Well, not just the world of Warcraft, but gaming in general. Just the ability and the opportunity to have been part of or to have led this small community of mine that, well, without it, I don't think, or I'm pretty sure that my WoW experience would be much less awesome than it is today. I think that's like saying that everything is totally awesome and that absolutely nothing's wrong. No. So sit back for a little bit, have a listen. I'm not going to have a lot of visuals. I'm just going to talk about the things that I've learned being a guild master for the past 11 years. One, we are definitely a social guild. The kind of guild that I run, I guess if I were to describe it, it's like, oh, it's a social guild that happens to do like heroic raiding and that sort of thing. That kind of sums up a lot of it. I mean, first and foremost, we consider ourselves, I guess some of us inside would consider ourselves friends and family. Because when the raid's over, when the mythic dungeon thing has expired and the tier's done and we're waiting for the next expansion, we might still be in the same guild. And that's something that over the course of all these years I've been watching people come and go and come back again and leave and so on and so forth. So first and foremost, that's something that I've taken into account, that the draw of coming in here isn't so much, hey, we do heroic raids on these days and these nights. I mean, that's a big draw, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but first and foremost, it's a social guild. It's where people, like-minded people, can get along, and from that, of course, comes some different caveats and advantages and disadvantages to that. But I definitely feel that over time, we've come to be a social guild first and foremost. I think without that opportunity to just kind of break away from the game and just kind of talk smack and shoot the shit, it would feel much too rigid. It would feel too businesslike, and without that, without that kind of transaction outside of the game experience, it just wouldn't feel good. And clearly I'm not phoning this video in. No siree. Lesson 2, micromanaging does not work well. I tried doing this back when we tried to be a little bit more serious. This is back in the day before there was heroic and we're just trying to get into like 25-man raiding, because there was nothing else. There was no path beyond Karazhan and Zulaman, apart from like doing Gruels and Serpentine Cavern and so on and so forth. But we needed a bigger team, so I tried to be a lot more hands-on. I tried to make the guild feel like, yes, I'm watching you, or I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to help the team succeed. And I guess in retrospect, I failed because of numerous reasons. But as time passed and as we received features like flexible raids and all these different difficulties and whatnot, we came to settle on a certain kind of difficulty. And the mentality of the raid settled in a certain spot. So from that, it wasn't important for me to tell people, okay, every week, folks, we need to make sure that we have our flasks, we need to have our resources all gathered. I need a certain amount of money from Guild Bank. I need to make sure that rotation is doing good, Carl, because your rotation blows donkey balls and blah, 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 blah. These days, not so much. These days, the micromanaging would make me feel like as if I'm a supervisor looking over your shoulder and be like, are you doing your stuff right? According to this log, you're not, and so on and so forth. So this kind of lesson applies to my level of play. It's not going to apply to the world first race. It's not going to apply to higher end mythic or higher end competitive rating. Lesson 3, mutual trust is important. Maybe I meant mutual respect. Yes, lesson 3, mutual respect is important. So when I'm talking about mutual trust or respect, it's little things. It's just respecting that the people that you're working with, the team that you're a part of, they're people too. They're not just DPSers and healers and classes and specs for you to shift around as if they're not people. Maybe that works in some circles, but when your healer has a typical dinner with their grandparents on the first week of every month and that person is not going to show up, hey, regardless of your progression or whatnot, I'm not going to tell that person, hey, Moof, you can't hang out with grandma, she'll die anyway, whatever, come on, let's go, it's Cahoon time. Yeah, of course I'm not going to do that. And the important thing that I would stress from that is when I would tell the guild, hey, you know what, this and this person isn't going to show up because of these reasons, I'm not going to inject even the slightest bit of negativity or resentment over it. It's like, hey, that sucks. They didn't show. Let's keep going, guys. I'm not going to blame that person, or at least I'm not going to seriously blame that person for ruining the run. Because I totally expect the guild to be as forgiving to me. Like, let's say if I have to go downstairs for a couple of minutes because I'm gonna have a drink with a friend, and all of a sudden that quick drink turns into an hour and a half of me going up and down the stairs saying, "Hey guys, I'm gonna come right back. I'm just still drinking, but I'll definitely be back. Just wait up, And this is all during the progression night. Yeah, maybe I don't really expect them to wait, but they waited, and that's precious to me. Lesson 4, because lesson 3 encompasses way too much. Anyway, lesson 4 is you don't have to be the experts on everything. This was liberating, actually. Not having to understand the details of every class and spec. And a lot of this, of course, has to do with the level of play. But when you're doing progression and when you're working with the same team and you're seeing certain kinds of mistakes and you feel the urge to want to help them out, it stretches you thin really quick depending on the size of your team. So a lot of it falls into what I ended up doing. I ended up kind of just feeling fortunate enough that there were a number of people on the team who were good at X and Y role, X and Y class, that they were able to give each other tips and talk things through that otherwise I would need to look up and try to communicate and teach and coach without really being a subject matter expert on this thing myself. As guildmaster and the kind of raid lead, I take a look at these tougher progression runs, and I'll kind of close my eyes and start thinking about all the tactics and things that we need to do and the little bits that we need to push in order to push that phase a little bit faster, in order to save a couple cooldowns here and there. So I do consider it my job to be conscious of the members that I have with me and what I have available, but not like every little thing. There have been many, many times where I've been like totally wrong about something. Like, hey, we can have Spellblade Allurial, we could just grab him where he's standing. It's totally fine. And they're like, no, don't do it. I'm like, it'll be fine. Let's go. And it didn't work out. And that's part of the fun of how I operated. It's that I'm not just a conductor that is telling everyone what to do, and I'm just not giving everybody instructions and hey, follow the instructions, because that is the game. Now the game is us, all of us together trying to figure this out. So that's where, and all these lessons, I guess they just kind of meld together. That's why I trust some of the suggestions that I'm given, and I give people enough respect that I let them have the floor and let them, hey, here's the suggestion on this and this, or here's what we can do about this. And it's liberating. It gives me a chance to just play the game instead of worrying too much about what people are doing. At least not until we screw up a whole bunch of times, then all of us got to take a good long look. Lesson numero 5. The guild became the game. I'm not doing this I didn't make this list in any order at all. When I mean the guild became the game, that goes all the way back to Lich King days. So a super, super long time ago when I became GM of the guild. And everything just kind of changed. The idea of, hey, let's go in as pugs and all that stuff, like that very much got pushed off to the wayside. So when it comes to talking about the WoW community, to me, there's two kinds of communities. One is the one that I talk about publicly. When I talk about the WoW community as a whole is feeling like this about this subject or something like that. But in practice, in game, the WoW community is no bigger than whoever is in my party or whoever is online in my guild at the time. So the problems of, oh my god, Titan forging and the artifacts, Azerites grind thingamajigger, that holds nothing. That doesn't mean much of anything. I mean, people still complain about it, almost in a mocking tone in the guild, but it doesn't matter because there's a lot of context to understand from that. It's like, okay, why do you need a high Azerite neck level? Oh, or a high item level. Oh, it's because I need to get into a group. Whereas here in the guild, what item level do I have to be? So I get that a lot from newer folks, and a lot of the time the guild will answer, well, can you show up? Do you have eyeballs? Do you have two hands and all that stuff? Which, yeah, there aren't a lot of requirements to at least get yourself in. As for staying in, of course, that's a different thing. Show up and don't be a total asshole. Just show up. And from there, the challenges the guild faces are very insular. It's, do we have resources to get through the raid nights? Or do we need to do some gathering stuff? Do we need to go on like farm runs and other such things? The whole idea of meeting requirements as it is experienced in the pug world, it's a very real thing, but it's something that just doesn't exist in here because I set the rules, and my rules are like, they're super, super lax. It's like, show up. And I think that's one of the most liberating things of being part of a guild. I get that there are things that people don't like about it, but being able to not have to worry about so many things because your small bubble of people are totally cool with the way that we just are is neat. Lesson number 6. You can't make everyone get along. This is something that I continue to learn to this day as we introduce people into the guild that some of us just don't really hit it off with at all. I learned that while there's a certain responsibility in myself to be tolerant of the people that I bring in for the sake of giving people a chance and hoping that everyone gets along, I'm not going to force the members of the team, the incumbents, I guess, to say, yes, you have to welcome this person, you have to be nice to them, even if they are acting like trash little assholes. You just put up with it for a bit. I don't need to do that. I mean, I tried to do it before, I was a lot more tolerant, but these days I think the environment of the guild has made it so that it kind of spits people out naturally, not in a super abrasive way, okay? I know that my guild tends to be a little bit xenophobic when it comes to new people. I think we just have a harder time opening up. I mean, come on, it's a really old guild. I know that not everyone has been there for all 11 or so years except for like me, but I do get that there is a certain intimidation among new people who come in and like, oh, okay, this is an old guild, everyone's cool with each other, everyone's like real life friends, and here I am, the new guy or girl coming in. Sometimes though, people are just dicks, and I've had to just kind of observe how those things go and see how different people handle it. And I think it goes without saying that while we're a more mature, we're older, we tend to not act super mature, but when it comes down to it, you got to be able to, put the brakes on, keep yourself cool, stay breezy, that sort of thing. But I have definitely learned that I can't force people to get along. It's better to just let one of those folks go than to otherwise force that sort of toxicity into the guild that really didn't need to happen. And that actually goes into my next thing, which thankfully it's there. You can't make everyone get along. Actually, I just read that. Lesson 7 is sometimes sacrifices are necessary. This goes into a specific event during Cataclysm where I brought in a couple of new folks, and we knew these people for a time. They were really good players. We brought them in for Firelands or so, maybe a little bit earlier than that, but we're progressing through Firelands. We're doing decent. We start farming like a little teeny bit of heroic as we're progressing to Rag. And at one point, there was kind of a scuffle. A couple of these folks kind of held the guild hostage, or they held the raid hostage by saying, you need to edit the rosters, Soul, and you need to get my people in here and kick some of your crappier people out because, well, we're better than they are, and if you have us, then we'll progress. And if you don't let us in, then we're just going to leave, and there goes all your progression. So I thought about it for a good like minute or so, and then I said, well, okay, there's the door. This isn't the kind of guild that I want to have. And yeah, so to sum things up, go ahead and get out. And so they did. We were held back for another like couple weeks, a month or so, because of those lost folks, and it sucked. But in the end, it felt necessary. It was kind of like that was a crossroads, and we could have went left or right. I chose to go right, and that direction definitely solidified us as a not so ambitious guild. We from there we weren't the type to try to push like to finish heroic and that sort of thing, but simply to enjoy the game. I think that was a defining moment for the guild. Yeah, just like how you can't make everyone get along, sometimes you need to sometimes I had to decide and tell someone, you're gone. We just can't have one negative little shit ruin it for everybody. Lesson number 8, which is totally out of order, but oh well. You tend to give less of a shit about gear. Okay, maybe it's me. Maybe it's just me. I know that there's going to be a lot of folks that disagree with this particular point, but I find that I care less about my own gear progression than I do, hey, did the whole raid get something? Did anything useless drop? If it did, then I'd be upset. But if everyone came away with something and was like some sort of upgrade, then sweet. This goes into what I consider an age-old argument between what's more important. Is it more important to get the gear, or is it more important to kill the bosses that happens to drop the gear? But to me, the culture that I guess I developed in PoW over time is that it is the adventure to getting that boss dead. That's meant to be the fun. The gear is simply a tool to help get us there. Because in this long-term commitment of being in a guild, the gear's gonna come. Hopefully. the gear's gonna come. As long as you're showing up all the time, because I'm going to be here. I'm going to be hosting every Tuesday, Thursday at such and such time, or at least for the most part. Show up and statistically, you're probably going to get everything you want. Lesson number 9. The people who stress having a schedule, they weren't kidding. I've been saying it a number of times throughout this list, but yeah, it goes without saying that one of the great things about being in a guild is the stability of having a schedule, of having a team that you can rely on. Hey, if I'm going to come in at 7 o'clock, I'm probably going to see a full raid team ready to go, and Soul's probably going to be like, man, this late motherfucker. We humans, for the most part, are creatures of habit. If we feel good knowing that we can program a certain behavior into our heads, as in showing up for raid and knowing that, yes, I am in fact going to raid tonight. One of the great freedoms of living in the pug world is that there's a whole army of people out there somewhere in the group finder that you can group up with, sign up with, and then you deal with all the hassle there. Part of the problem with that is there's a reasonable chance that you will not find anybody, or that the group that you end up with is a total it's a total flop. But of course, there is a measure of success to be had there as well. But the reason I'm adding an otherwise inane item into this list is because of what's been happening over the past 2 expansions. And by that, I'm talking about Legion and Warlords of Draenor, because at the end of at the end of the expansion, typically when the guild just kind of like collapses a little bit and people are just on break and they're, I'm going to play other things, I'm going to unsub for a little bit. That's something that I fully expect, even if people don't say anything. I expect that a measure of these people are going to come back for some more shenanigans in the next expansion. But something that I noticed during Warlords and during Legion is that people just kept showing up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm like, because I told everyone, hey, I'm going to, continue doing stuff. I'm going to be on, and if enough people are on, yeah, we can go ahead and raid and do stuff, and we can mess with 3, 4, 5, 7 alts. And during those 2 expansions, we raided every week, the same runs, over and over and over again. And we dealt with all the frustrations of dealing with alt number 6s and 7s. Well, okay, some of us did. Some folks, even me, would get frustrated on certain nights because it'd be like, dude, we've been doing this for like months and you're still screwing up on this. God. But we did it pretty much every week because it was the scheduled time. I think that sort of stability is one of the things that keeps people coming in, is that they can rely on me and everyone else, most everyone else, enough people to show up and do stuff. Like I said, a lot of us have commitments. It's not even a matter of age or whatever. It's just we have other obligations. We have jobs and kids and other things. So being able to rely on setting aside this certain amount of time so we can go in and kill internet dragons has proven to be extremely valuable. And the 10th lesson to learn, and proof that I'm just totally phoning this in, being in a guild is fucking sweet. I am super, super lucky as being someone who considers themselves to be a little bit socially awkward, a little bit anxious about certain things, that I could manage to be a part of this guild, let alone run this thing, and create this vessel of enjoying WoW that like I said earlier, I don't think I would enjoy WoW the same way at all if it wasn't for this guild. Over time, and especially as I started to dive into forums and started doing content creation, I learned that what I have is not something to be taken for granted at all. The people that are part of my team today, as well as the hundreds of people that have come and gone for whatever reason, I feel privileged to have known these people, and I feel proud that I can call these people friend. I'm sure that there are a lot of players just like me who have started way back. I started in vanilla. There are a lot of people like me that have a long history over the course of the World of Warcraft, the twists and turns, the roller coaster of emotion, all the ups and downs. But I think that among us, there's a smaller handful of us that have stuck with like a guild, like for almost the entire time. Today we live in a WoW with easy grouping through the group finder and queuing up for stuff in LFR or the LFD thing or whatever. But being able to talk about my history as a player, but have that run parallel with the history of this guild that I was in is really neat and interesting and fascinating. I still remember being invited into the guild that November of 2007 or so when the original GM Wu, she whispers to me and she's like, yeah, I mutinied the guild that we were in and I made a new one. You want to join? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I remember she and I would talk on the phone every now and then, like telephone, and argue about how to run the team and how to grow the guild and, the kinds of things that we're dealing with. And, I'd lend an ear as she was like bitching about stuff. To the Lich King expansion, when I was tested as being the new GM, and one of the first things I did was ended up merging our guild with another one in the hopes of doing 25-man raiding, and then totally regretting it and running back to Cataclysm when the guild was threatened to be split apart because of that thing in Firelands that I told you about earlier. When we finally had Firelands on farm, and I think we're on Ballarok, and we learn, I forget who, I think it was one of our warlocks. She told us that one of our hunters, that he passed away, and damn. And that leads up to all the BlizzCons that we'd shared together, with Carl hitting all the buttons on the elevator while we're still in the elevator. Why did he do that? And why did we not just walk out of there? I'm the old man in this guild. People think I'm like in my 60s or so, and maybe that's true, but being in a guild is so fucking sweet. It's so cool, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. I don't care that I'm not a top 100 raider person. I care that I can take these people and I can say, I'm not going to kick any of you out. Well, except maybe that one, but I'm not going to kick any of you out because we're going to do this together. We're going to complete this objective, kill this boss, do whatever together. Or we're going to fail together because that's us. That's the family. So that was my ramble rant thing, my first video of 2019, but hey, it's okay if you think guilds are trash, and if they're not for you, because some folks have had really terrible experiences in their guilds. I've heard them before they join the guild, and I've heard them elsewhere too. But this is one of the big reasons why I emphasize being in a guild so much, because it changes your perception of the game. It narrows your vision, and I think it's in a good way. I don't think you need to look at the entirety of the World of Warcraft to decide, yes, this is a good game, or this is bad. You know, this is very bad. That person got laid off. These people getting laid off, and now I'm not having fun. That's not how I see WoW. I see WoW from the lens of the people that I experience it with. But you know what? I think I'll just end things there. Comment something, like it, subscribe, and otherwise, stay breezy.